Meskwaki, and Winnebago nations. Before I share anything else on the screen, I'd like to make a few introductions and invite you to introduce yourself in the chat box. It'd be really nice if we could understand who you are by name, by where you serve, your tribal community, and anything else you'd like to share that you think would be of importance to us to learn about you. And you can post that in the chat. And again, I know our presenter is going to give you that opportunity to share in the group collectively later on. I'm Dr. Allison Bays, and I serve as a program coordinator for our prevention center with the National American Indian Alaska Native Center. With me on the line today, I have a few of my colleagues. So I'd like to start with Liz to introduce herself.
Nice to meet all of you, and I'm happy to see a few familiar faces from Riding to Heal. My name is Liz Sadoff. I am the National American Indian Alaska Native Childhood Trauma TSA Category 2 Center Program Coordinator. Sorry, long mouthful, and I always laugh when I do it sometimes, and I don't mean to. Very happy to have all of you here, and with that, I'm going to pass it off to Cam.
Hi, everybody. My name is Cam Marcingill. I am a communications coordinator with the Native Center for Behavioral Health, and I also do work with the PTTC. So,
thank you both. I'll go back to sharing the screen. Are you able to see this lovely slide that says social wellness and prevention, everybody? Thank you. What happened in our center a few months back is that we were processing the importance of how we help one another in our journey throughout life. And one of the things that came about was during the winter months, it's important to consider how do we take care of each other, whether there are actual blood relatives or relatives from our community, but what do we do differently during the times when people are most vulnerable or isolated? And so last summer, one of our team members came up with this document on social wellness and prevention. And so it's a collective effort, although it came from one center, but it speaks to our mental health and our prevention and intervention that needs to happen with some of our community members at times. And if you click on the link here to the right of the screen, you can access this, download it yourself. If you want printed copies of this, please send us an email and we'll be happy to send them to you. But it really looks at the importance of how are we supporting each other consistently in our lives daily? Because we know that through our own culture, through our stories, through our traditions, we have been taught the importance of spending quality time with one another. And sometimes it's not always physically possible. And I'll speak to my own example. My family is all back home in South Texas, and I'm with the Tapilam Kowiteca Nation. And what's really difficult is at times when there's ceremony going on back home, I'm up here in Minnesota working and doing other things, and I'm not always available and accessible to my family. And so when things are happening, how do I stay connected? How do I continue to be involved and engaged when I'm not always physically there? And so my husband and I have looked for ways here to continue to care for ourselves during winter, take care of ourselves during prayer time and ceremony here in Minnesota, even though our family is so far away. And so this series has been a series of 4 sessions thus far, which started out back in December, when we talked about the importance in order to care for other folks, our family members and our friends, it's really important to take care of ourselves so that we can be better relatives to one another. As we continued on during December, we asked a tribal member from Navajo Nation to come and share the importance of culture and what she's done as a parent and a grandparent to keep the tradition, the culture going of weaving. And we moved on into January, where we had folks talking about art through traditional artwork that is being done in her own community up here at Leech Lake in the Minnesota area. And then our last session a few weeks back was speaking to the idea of how do we care for our elderly? Because we know our elders are the most important folks in our community. They have been carrying on our tradition for years, and it's important for us to recognize their needs as well as what we can continue to learn from them. And so today we move forward at looking at telling our stories through songs and the written word with our presenter. Tanea Winder is an author. She's a singer, songwriter, and poet, as well as a motivational speaker. And she's accomplished so much in her life as an educator. She actually comes from the tribal lineage of Southern Ute, Pyramid Lake Paiute, and Duckwater Shoshone Nations, where she's an enrolled citizen. Today, you're going to hear about her heart work and the important work that she's done across Indian country, and especially the work that she's done with our youth and our young people and healing trauma through art. And so without speaking any more and talking on, I would love to turn the floor over to our presenter, Tanea Winder.
Thank you so much, Allison, and so grateful to be here with you all today. This will be interactive too. I'm going to have you all do some writing and reflection, and we're going to do some meditation as well, because it's all connected, right? Just our bodies, the vehicle, the vessel that is our bodies, and how do we take care of ourselves, to take care of other people. I like to think of it of keeping the fire lit. And so even in my work, where I work now, when we think of life-work balance, we intentionally call it life-work balance because we want life to come before work, because you have a life, you're not just your work. But we like to think of it like, well, who's keeping the fires going? Like, who's keeping the fire lit? And it always makes me think of, in ceremony, when you have different ceremony, you have a fire keeper, you have somebody whose whole responsibility is to keep that fire going. So all of these things I'm going to share with you today, I think, relate to that, to keeping your fire lit. So as Allison introduced me, Tanea, I call what I do heart work. I felt like when I was just doing education, I felt like people would just only know me as an educator, but I was a writer, I was a singer, I did all of these other things, and it just felt so limiting to me, like just these boxes, where we have to just limit ourselves. We're asked to limit ourselves in this world, but I'm my mother's daughter, I'm a younger sister, all of these different things. And for me, I felt like that best fit under this umbrella of heart work because it's my heart work. And who's my community, some of those were mentioned. And I grew up on the Southern Ute Reservation in Southern Colorado. So I always think, that is part of my belonging. My people are who hold me accountable. And what do I do? You'll get to hear a little bit about what I do this session. I'm going to share some songs, some breathing exercises. And what motivates me is just that whole aspect of healing. None of us lives life unscathed or unwounded. And as with the series and with isolation and winter and COVID, sometimes there's just loneliness. We get lonely. It might be hard to be with our thoughts or to be still, or those that we work with might have a hard time just sitting still. A lot of us are guilty of it, just always being on our phones, scrolling, or always binge watching shows. And that's fine. That's a form of my self-care too, is binge watching shows, but just remembering to be present. And sometimes in those thoughts, different things come up, right? Different past traumas or soul wounds, or just you really hear what's bothering you with your thoughts, and helping people have tools to heal, to navigate their healing is what's always been a big part of my motivation. So I'm going to have us just start with a grounding exercise. I always think it's important. Some of us have busy days, stacked meetings, or things happening at home or at work that aren't in our control. And in order to really get the most out of sessions like these, I think it's so important to just call ourselves, our minds, our spirits into this space that we're in, just to really get the most out of it. So for this grounding exercise, to get us started, I'm just going to ask you to do a little self-massage. For me, sometimes my hands, probably from typing, I'll have to massage them in different parts. But just to quickly do a little check-in with your body and see where you might have an ache. Maybe you want to rub your legs or your knees if you've been sitting, or maybe you want to rub your shoulders or your hands, but just notice where you're tense and just give some love and energy there. Sometimes we might be tense where we're carrying something that needs to be released. And as you're just doing that, sometimes our face too, to loosen it up. But breathe deep and breathe in what you want to hold on to. Breathe out what you want to let go of today. And if you're comfortable, have your eyes closed, and as you're breathing and doing that soft massage, just think about what you want to release. And as you're breathing, think about what you're holding on to that you don't want to be a part of you or your story or your journey anymore. And what do you want to let go of? What do you need to let go of? And sometimes, we massage other people if they're tense. We can massage ourselves if we need that self-love. And, wherever your knots are, wherever you're rubbing, there is something there that needs to be released. And as you breathe and think about those things you want to let go of, go ahead and shake out your hands too and let it go. I always shake out my hands if I would massage my grandma or my partner or myself, just because I was touching that energy where there was that tension, where there was that knots. And just shake your hand, and you can even say it out loud sometimes. You could do it now, but you don't have to. But if you do this with yourself or others later, sometimes you could just say it out loud too. Like, today I am letting go of my anxiety, or today I'm letting go of my fear. Just because our words have such power, and we can invoke that power to shake ourselves up a little bit. All right. So now I'm going to invite you all to just drop into the chat what you're feeling. It could be what you're feeling in this moment, what you're feeling today, what you're feeling this week as we're getting it started off. I've included this feelings wheel. Some of us, we're just in that go mode all the time. We don't stop and think how we're feeling. I'm guilty of this myself. My mom will say, "How are you doing today? How are you feeling?" And I say, "I'm okay." And she says, "Okay is not a feeling." So I like this feeling wheel because I can look like, how am I feeling? I'm feeling hopeful today and excited to be here with you all today. So if you're able to, just drop in the chat what you're feeling today. You'll notice this wheel has uncomfortable emotions and comfortable emotions. And this is just to remind ourselves that there's no bad emotions. Our feelings are valid. Our feelings are what we feel. And sometimes they're uncomfortable. Being angry or sad or embarrassed, ashamed are uncomfortable emotions. But through these healing practices, through our culture, through different things, we can always move from uncomfortable to comfortable. And it's good to sit with those whenever we can. So thank you for sharing, Liz. I see grateful, hopeful, overwhelmed, hopeful and overwhelmed, pressure. Grateful, for taking this time for yourselves today. And now that we've named those emotions and see them, if they're those uncomfortable ones, hopefully we'll be able to let go of them and get to a different place by the end of our time together. But I'm actually going to have us start with doing a little writing prompt, and I'll play some music. If any of you've been into my Writing to Heal class, you know we get a lot of these kinds of questions. Because when I think of being a good relative to myself and to my family, to my work circle, to all these different circles and fires I keep going in my life, I think a lot of healing and fighting, maybe not fighting, but acknowledging loneliness and trying to heal loneliness or isolation, all of those things, I think is tied to belonging, right? Some of us have had that belonging ruptured, throughout our lives, maybe as children, maybe through that, the ancestral memory, if we've had relatives who were taken, and that bonding, those familial ties might have been ruptured. So this question is just going to ask us to reflect on these things for a moment. Because remember, first we belong to ourselves, and then we belong to our families and to others. So just think a bit about, where did you learn belonging, and who taught you what it meant to belong? So we're going to write for 3 minutes. You can write by hand, you can type. If you want to just sit and think about it, there's no wrong way to answer it. It could just be people who come to mind, or a list. Maybe it's specific memories. Anything that comes to mind. Wherever your mind leads you is the right way to do this. So I'm going to play a 3-minute song, and we'll write for that, and we'll see if anybody wants to share. But again, where did you learn belonging? Who taught you what it meant to belong? There's no wrong way to do this, whatever comes to your mind. And I'll play some music. All right, so that was 3 minutes. Time goes by so fast sometimes, but maybe it also felt a little slow. I don't know, it kind of depends on where you're at sometimes. But we are going to do a couple more prompts too. So this is your time. You know, if that was a good amount of time, if you want more time when we do another prompt, like, happy to give you more time too. And for you to take anything you hear in this workshop to make it your own. And I really like these prompts. You know, I'm an auntie for the first time. You know, my nephew is 3, and just teaching him about emotions and learning so many things, which seems so simple, right? The questions can seem so simple. Where did you learn belonging? Who taught you what it meant to belong? But the things I learn when I teach him and try to connect with him are the same things I use whether I'm working with teenagers or, you know, like my coworkers who are a wide range of you know, I don't even know what they're called, Gen Z to millennial. I think I'm an elder millennial. Like, I don't know these terms, but the older folks as well too. People who I'd consider my aunties, my work aunties and uncles. But all of these things, I feel like those same tools of connection, just breaking it down to basics, things that we know from our culture, right? Storytelling, spending time, like spending time is like the greatest love language. I feel like, you don't have to be doing anything. Sometimes just showing up for your people, for your elders, is so important. But I do want to open it up to see if anybody wants to share what came up for you with that last prompt about belonging. You don't have to share exactly what you wrote if you don't want to. It could just be if it sparked something for you. But just to encourage us to share, sharing, whether it's sharing skills, whether it's sharing art practices, whether it's sharing stories, is like one of the best ways to check in with each other, and to make ourselves feel that connection, that string of connection with our family. I often think about what is the purpose of sharing? How does it make you feel when other people share? And I think it just offers so many different forms of connection. So if anybody wants to share, you could drop your name in the chat, or you can unmute yourself if there's anything from that last prompt you want to share.
I could share.
Thank you.
Okay, so my name's Joanne, and what I had put for mine was that, let's see, I had belonging. I actually put like a little heart with belonging in the middle.
I love that.
But so I put, so where and who taught me about belonging? So I put mom, dad, grandma, because my grandma helped raise me. And then as I was going through it, then I actually included God in there, because as I was where did you learn belonging? So then I put a home, my family ties, my responsibilities, my children, my cultures, and I started thinking about my religion. And then I started thinking about society, because we think about where do we fit in. So that goes back to belonging. And then of course, with our tribal cultures, belonging within a tribe, that type of thing. So yeah, that's what I put.
Thank you so much for sharing, Joanne. One of the things, and then I'll see if anyone else wants to share, but one of my favorite sayings is this, the shortest distance between two people is a story. And you sharing just reminded me of that, right? Because I do these kinds of workshops a lot. I don't always write myself, and I was trying to do it this time, and I was having a hard time. And then hearing you share, it's like, oh, like it was just sparking things in my own mind, like when you mentioned God or religion, I thought like, okay, I've been in ceremony, I belong there. Like it really just helped me form some connections in my own head too. So thank you for sharing. It's one of the things I love, is just, I feel like we all just help each other learn in so many different ways. So thank you for sharing. Did anyone else want to share? All right, there'll be time later too. And if you want to share anything at all, that's welcome. We welcome that. But I had said about, the shortest distance between two people is a story. Because when we think about belonging, where we think about helping people connect, see the chat. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, sometimes it can be triggering that prompt, about our trauma, like, well, I don't belong, or I'm still trying to belong. I know people who are still on that journey, and maybe it is a lifetime of us reminding ourselves, where we do belong, that we belong in this world, that our presence here matters. And some people, it's hard to see past your trauma. It was just blizzarding here. They did that squall warning on your phone. And that's what I think about when trauma is activated in people sometimes. Like the road is there, the path is there, but you can't always see it because it's like blizzard conditions and you're blinded by it in that moment. And just how do you wait for that storm to pass, you fight, flight, or freeze. And honoring that moment. I've spoken in one of my other classes before about that's the journey too. It's just, if you need to be fight, flight, or freeze, be in it. That's the opportunity it's giving you, is to be in it, feel that discomfort, and then find your way out of it, work your way out of it, because that opportunity is there too. And there's no wrong way in that moment. So, when we think about those things, it's very much head and heart for me. I've heard that that's the longest distance in the world, is that 16 inches between our head and our heart, because, maybe our heart is triggered into those fight or flight, freeze with the trauma, and our head is trying to calm us. Like, we know we're safe now. We know we belong now. And it's hard to travel that distance, to reconcile that distance. And those we know who are struggling as well are in that path as well. And so doing activities, sharing, connecting, I think is one way, to help us along our journey, to help us see that path out of the storm, to find what it is that we need to make each day a good day. I personally try to smudge every day, try to pray every day the way I was taught. Some days when I oversleep and I'm just showering real quick to get to my virtual desk for work, I might forget. And my day doesn't feel just quite right when that happens. So I'm going to share with you all a song about it being a good day. One of the things I've tried to do to connect with my elders is to learn language. Like many of us, language was stolen from me from boarding school. And my grandma was taught that her life, her indigeneity didn't matter, her life ways. And so she didn't teach her language to my mom or my aunties. And so my sister and I are trying to learn. And in one of my communities, there's this elder who would send out emails every week with like a Ute phrase. And this one phrase came across my inbox, and it was this phrase, tu teveak, and it means it's a good day. So I'm going to play that song with you all because it's an elder that's very respected in my community. And I was kind of nervous to talk to him. Like, I feel like just like a little girl again when I'm around some elders sometimes. And, my mom would be like, make sure you listen, don't be on your phone. Like, just really being a mom to me, making me feel even more like a teenager. And I've never really had like a close connection with this elder, but I really just felt like I want to write a song with that phrase so I can learn that and have it in my vocabulary. But because my community is so small, I always wanted to make sure, like, do I have his permission to play and share this song, with others? And if not, I'll just keep the song for myself. It can belong with just me. And I remember being so nervous. My hands were like sweaty, and I was going to go play him this song and just trying to prep myself. Like, he might say no, he might say you can't share this song with anybody. But he did, he liked it, and he really liked it as a way to try to teach language for our community. And it just forged such a strong relationship now. I feel still a little intimidated, but I feel less afraid to talk to this elder, to hear his stories, to hear some of the lessons and teachings that he passes on. And so it always just takes that first step, being the one to make that connection and realizing, our people, our community, everybody has a story to tell and a voice, and they want to share it. You just have to be able to be there to listen. So I'm gonna share this song with you all because it always helps me. It's almost like a prayer for me, this song, every time I share it. I wrote it like that, and then we'll reflect a little bit on what makes us have a good day. So I hope y'all can hear it all right, but this is called Tu teveak. It's a good day. Woke up this morning to greet the day, lit my sage to give thanks and began to pray. Hey, I ask, Creator, do what you can to guide my path. That's all I ask. It's a good day. Ancestors, please protect my spirit, those I hold dearest in my heart. If there are wounds, help me heal them, so others know love even for a minute. It's a good day. So that was Tu Teveak. It's a good day. And it is a good day to be here with you all today. Finding singing is one of my favorite things to do. I used to always sing in the shower, and it's what makes my spirit feel most alive. I love singing in ceremony with like my people and writing songs, and so that's a good day for me. If there's a way that I could share what creators gifted me, I feel like I'm on the right path. And so thank you all. I want to be able to hear, what makes that good day for you all. Because sometimes, I hate that term like bad day, but sometimes it's like today is bumming me out. Like I had all these meetings, this presentation I did didn't go well. My boss said something that made me question my worth or if I'm doing the right thing. We all have those kinds of days. And sometimes I have to catch myself when I'm in that I call it my little pity shame spiral, when I'm like, and this and that. And, sometimes I want to just slide down it, like those slides we slid on when we were children, the ones that go round and round, fall in the sand. But sometimes I catch myself and I think, okay, what are some things I can ask for, I can pray for right now to have a good day or a good life? And what does a good day look like to me? And then I have to say, did I get outside today? Did I hug my husband? Did I get to pet my cats? And it really helps me, put things in perspective. And then I think, well, that wasn't so hard, right? I just needed to step outside and get some water. How can I do that for the people in my circle, that I take care of, or elders? How can I help them have a good day? Is it just bringing food? Is it saying, hey, I wasn't sure if you had any water. Do you want to have tea or coffee with me? Those things. So I invite you all to share in the chat too, just, or if you don't want to type and you want to unmute and share some of those things. But just, what do we think about? What does a good day look like to each of you? And I love that, Cam, when we sing, we pray twice. Put that in my next slideshow. When we sing, we pray twice. Cam. Well, while y'all are thinking of things about your good day, again, feel free to drop things in the chat. But I wanted to just share this teaching about, Allison. Okay, I'll quote you, Allison. Dr. Bays. I love that. I've shared this teaching with some folks before, if you've seen it, but it's about, our life gardens. And I'm always finding new ways to think about things. You know, I had prefaced this session by saying, how do we keep the fire lit? You know, being good relatives, we each take care of a fire. And this one elder in my community was saying how there are four fires in life. And it made me think about just, you know, how, again, the number four, how sacred it is too, but just the elements, you know, water, wind, earth, air. And to encourage you all, I want to encourage you all to think about how those elements show up in your life. For me, my desk space, you know, I try to have my water bottle. I have smudge, that's my fire. Earth, you know, my husband has plants right out there. And air, I try to make sure I have my window open, or I get outside, get that vitamin D, go for a walk. And so thinking about those four elements, but to me it like now relates to this idea of four fires in our lives. So an elder was saying to me and my mom, you know, that there are four fires in life that we have to keep burning. There's the fire in ceremony. You know, for us, we go to the sweat lodge. There's somebody who keeps that fire to keep the rocks going. So there's the fire in ceremony. There's a fire in the sky. So that's the sun, he said. There's the fire in the earth, you know, deep down there's that lava, magma. And then there's the fire in our hearts. So that's the fourth fire, is the fire in our hearts. And so when we think about feeding those fires, think about how we're interacting with those four fires, you know, to have this balance, to have that, that overall holistic wellness, you know. For me, that fire in the sky, like making sure, like I said, going for walks, getting that vitamin D, going to ceremony if I'm not always able to, you know, if we're far from home, like burning your medicines, like having that fire, your own ceremonial practices, and walking on the earth, like acknowledging the fire there, and then just thinking about that fire in your heart, you know, when there are times when you feel like it might be going out or dwindling. Again, what's rekindling that fire? What is, on a basic level, what's a good day look like for you? Can you make some of those elements happen on a daily, on that day, to help pivot, to help turn your day around? I think of it too, you know, about how we feed ourselves. And so just let's think about that for a second too. Like, think and meditate on that. You know, how do you feed yourself? You know, is it fast food? Is it rushed? Is it cooking? Is it taking that time and intention to make a meal? You know, have you fed yourself today? For us, you know, food is so important. You know, there's food at events, and just taking food to a friend, taking food to an elder, or if you're feeling down, just reaching out. Like, the hardest thing too sometimes is reaching out, having that vulnerability. Can you check on me later today? I have a friend who's going through a divorce right now, and he was really vulnerable to ask those things of us, his friends. Can you check on me each day? Can you ask if I've had water? Can you ask if I've fed myself? And so it's good to do that too, and not just thinking of feeding ourselves, you know, with food, but the other like ways of feeding ourselves. You know, I talked about feeding your fire. How do you feed your fire? And one of the ways I think is feeding each other stories. Like, I love stories. I feel like it leaves me so full when I'm getting to spend time with elders or anybody, you all hearing your stories. So keeping all of those fires lit can be hard work, right? Like, I was just thinking about that the other day. I'm like, how is it? It's so tough sometimes, right? You got to work out, you got to walk, you got to eat right, you got to make sure you're drinking enough water, you got to work. It's just like pulled in all of these different directions. So I'm trying to think more, you know, I don't know if you all do this, but every year, you know, I saw people sharing words this year, like, my word for 2023 is joy, or my word is success. And I was thinking, I want mine to just be peace. I want my word to be peace and harmony. So thinking about harmony keeping, I'm going to play another song so we can write, but I want you all to do a writing meditation or reflection on, you know, on harmony keeping. how do you maintain balance? What balances you, and what practices make you feel grounded? So just taking time to write this out, and I'll explain more a little bit after. So I'm going to play a song. Remember, there's no wrong way to do this. Whatever comes to your mind about harmony keeping, about balance, who and what balances you. And if you feel off balance today too, that's fine. You can write that with what's making you off balance, what gets you off balance. Again, no wrong way to do this. But I'm going to play a song and have us write about this. All right. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and stop sharing my screen and see if anybody wants to share a reflection or share what you wrote. You can either unmute yourself or drop your name in the chat and I can call on you, whatever feels good.
So this is Joanne again. I'll share again.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure. So at first I was trying to figure out, what to write. And then I thought, well, maybe I should think about what's causing me to feel ungrounded. So then once I figured out like little things that cause me to feel ungrounded, then like I could probably still keep going on my list, but so things like that cause me to feel ungrounded would be like trying to do too many things. It's like multitasking and just the pressures of probably work, family, all of that. And then like being overly stimulated, like within my surroundings, whether I have control over it or not. So based on that, how do I maintain balance? Who balances me and what practices make me feel grounded? So I had put self-care, and you mentioned it earlier, like going outside and literally going for a walk. Before I got on this webinar, I was actually feeling overwhelmed at the moment. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go take my break and I'm gonna go walk. And it's probably, I don't know, it's probably like 23 degrees outside and it's cloudy. And I love cold, dreary weather. So I definitely got my energy back. But it was just going outside, going for a nice crisp walk. It could be something like, I'm going to school right now, college, and this is my final quarter. And so I'm taking this crazy statistics class and some other ones. And so literally I felt overwhelmed over the weekend because we just got done with midterms and I had another project to do. And I actually made the conscious decision just to go to sleep because I've been staying up so late doing stuff. And I was like, you know what? I can't keep running on empty. I'm just gonna go to sleep, and deal with it in the morning. And it worked out perfect. I mean, I did I was knocked out but something as simple as sleep. So, these are things that they don't necessarily cost money, but it's, our well-being that helps rejuvenate us. So like sleep, I practice conscious breathing. As soon as the weather, starts changing. Gardening. I love going out into the garden. I love weeding, taking off my shoes and socks and literally just getting dirty in the dirt and mud and pulling those weeds. And actually could just be spending time by myself. Sometimes I get so overwhelmed with, or just busy, in meetings, with coworkers, with kids, with sporting events, the whole thing. Sometimes literally just like telling my husband, you know what, you take the kids to town and I'm literally just going to stay home. So it's something simple as that. So, and then culturally, I like to weave. And so for me, what helps me maintain balance and just literally puts me in different zones when I weave. So, I like to do that as well. So that's what I put.
Thank you so much for sharing. Yeah, it just makes me think, like you're like something so simple as sleep. And I think, especially like working with kids, with youth, like everything tries to make it so complicated now, like, and I'm like, do I need to go back to school? Do I need to get my math? Should I do all these things? And yes, those things are great and helpful. And we do need as many educated people as we can to help with different parts of the ecosystem and world. But it just comes down to just those simple things, right? Like walking, eating, sleeping. Sometimes I'll just check with like my loved ones and say, do you need a nap? Even though we're grown-ups, like let's take a nap, like it will help. And with connecting with each other, connecting with kids, it's like the same thing. Like let's not overcomplicate it. It's just, it can be so simple, just spending time, like, and whatever that time is. And I loved hearing all of the things you shared, and it just reminds me too to just ask people too, like, hey, you kind of seem well, I guess maybe that might be judgy, saying you kind of seem frazzled now. What do you need to have balance? Finding a better way to say that. And Essie Linda shared in the chat too, ritual grounds me, traditional and self-made rituals that I do on a daily basis and need it to maintain balance. Rituals that keep me connected to my important people that have traveled on. Yes, yeah, I like that. Just remembering to connect to people who are no longer here too. That's one of my my favorite ways too, when I'm feel like I'm not getting the advice I need from people who are still on this earth. I try to call on my ancestors like that. So thank you for sharing, Linda. And if anyone else wants to share too, you're totally welcome. And we will have another time too. But I wanted to share this excerpt from this poem by this poet, Jory Graham, and the poem is called Prayer. One of my professors had said on Twitter, you know, what's a line from a poem that has always stuck with you? And she shared this, and the lines were, nobody gets what they want. Never again are you the same. The longing is to be pure. What you get is to be changed. And the poet in me, I love like the little slight rhyme between same and changed, right? Like so many things that we would want the same. Those of us who get anxious or nervous when change happens, but we remember, you know, like there is that longing for things to stay the same, but never again. We don't get to stay the same. We get to change. You know, what you get is to be changed. And I keep thinking about that line over and over, just navigating changes with work, with getting older, just different things, you know. And I love the reframe, because for me it helped me reframe it, you know, like I get to be changed. Like how beautiful is that? Like even though some of these things are hard, even though helping people through trauma or trying to steward my own trauma is tough, like I get to be changed, and it's a blessing to be changed. And so I offer you this prompt. We won't write to it right now, but you know, when we're thinking about harmony keeping, how do we maintain balance? What gives us peace? So when we think about change, or if there's change that you're still working through, or a past change that has made it harder for you to accept change moving forward, just I encourage you to think about that poem. You know, what you get is to be changed, and to remember a time or experience that changed you, and to think, how did you change? What did that change feel like? What are some techniques you used to manage that change? And just to give that praise, give that love to the person you became now. You know, I can think back in my own life on some things, you know, whether recovering from the loss of someone close to me, having them pass away, or even just like really hard breakups, you know, things like that, and just wishing things could have ended up differently, but remembering it was hard, it hurt to change, but just like those caterpillars have to push through, you know, their chrysalis, their cocoons, to get their wings, to get the water out of their wings so they can fly. Like that's how change is for us too. And to, if you're struggling with change moving forward, or even today, like to remember some of those things we just brainstormed with the harmony keeping, with the maintaining balance. And again, these slides will be shared with you too, so you can spend more time on some of these prompts if you want as well. But I like to think of it in terms of like reciprocity too, right? Like you get out what you put in a lot of times. It was like that with me playing guitar. Like I was just like, man, I really have to practice or I'm not going to remember chords or different things. Like you get out what you put in. And I try to think about relationships, whether it's work or professional or personal, you know, what is the reciprocity? Is it giving me energy? It doesn't have to be the same energy, but is it giving me energy that I am putting out? Like, is that reciprocated? Is this a healthy relationship? because it's hard to be a good relative if it doesn't have those, you know, healthy boundaries, if it doesn't have that reciprocity. And for me, I think of this saying, from the doorway into the doorway out. It's something that elders in my community say when they're leading ceremony. You know, we sit in a circle and we pray for people. We think of people from the doorway into the doorway out. We don't want to forget anybody. And I remember that that caretaking and what it means to be grateful for these connections. You know, when I first met my partner, you know, it was my first time feeling like that real love, that deep connection, spiritual love. And I just felt like so thankful and grateful for it. It made me think about all these other types of loves in my life, like my familial love, like environmental love, just friendships that you have love. And, you know, we're human, we're not perfect. We can often mess up. And I just thought, you know, like, what it meant to be thankful for that love. You know, when I tell my mom, I love you, she always says, I love you more. But then I wanted to say to her, like, when she says, I love you, I wanted to, like, not just say I love you too, but to say thank you. Like, thank you for loving me through all of these different things. To me, I think that's like an important part of self-care, of healthy relationships, of being a good relative, is that gratitude. And I loved that concept so much because I am thankful to be loved when I mess up, when my trauma like rears its head and I resist or I do different things. You know, like, I'm that person who might fight sleep if I know I need sleep, but I'm just so much more comfortable in my trauma, in my fight mode, that I'm like, I'm just going to push through and I'm not going to give myself what I need right now. Saying it out loud sounds crazy, but I often do that. Like, I won't give myself what I need. And I think a lot of us struggle with that sometimes too. It's like we want to punish ourselves, or we know people or clients or others who have it so much harder that we want to push ourselves harder, and it doesn't make sense, right? We have to take care of ourselves. So thank you for loving me too is the message from that. And I'm going to play another song that is called that, actually, and it's called Thanks for Loving Me Too. So I hope when you go out in the world after this and you're with those who love you, that you just say, like, you know, sometimes I say thank you for loving me, and then you say thanks for loving me too. So I'm going to play this one for you all. I wrote this one during the pandemic because I was just so grateful to be by my loved ones. You told me I was brave, even when I felt afraid. You told me to stand tall, get back up when I fall. And I just wanted to say to you, thanks for loving me too. Thanks for loving me. Thanks for loving me. Thanks for loving me too. I never thought I'd find a love I'd want for life, someone with wounds that matched mine. I never known a feeling quite this strong. Finally found where I belong. And I just wanted to say to you, thanks for loving me too. Thanks for loving me. Thanks for loving me. Thanks for loving me too. So that was Thanks for Loving Me. Oops. I had performed that for some elementary school students virtually. And they just love that song. They like couldn't wait to get home to go to their parents and say, "Thanks for loving me too, Mom." And I loved being able to share that with them. All right. Oops. So we're gonna do another breath awareness one. Just to bring us back into the space as well. And this one is giving yourself permission to breathe. You know, when we are faced with struggle, when we are faced with being overwhelmed or anxious or all of those things, to just stop and give ourselves permission to do what we need and to just breathe at that basic level. Just sometimes it just takes those good big belly breaths to help us calm down. So if you feel comfortable, just ask people to close their eyes for this part and breathe, and just to think about some of the things we shared today, you know, whether it was about change or releasing or letting go or remembering about belonging or when we didn't belong, but just to get comfortable and close our eyes if that feels right, and just breathe deep, nourishing breaths, and to breathe as if each breath and inhale brings you what you need right now, and each exhale you're able to release something that no longer serves you. Again, imagine each breath, each inhale gives you what you need right now. And with each exhale, you're able to release something that no longer serves you on this path, in your heart work, in your journey, on your purpose. And as we breathe, think of releasing feelings that are stuck, and just to think about how much better it would feel to release them instead of keeping them stuck in your body. And if you feel comfortable, just put one hand on your heart and focus there while you're breathing. Think of light flowing into your heart. Think about what you need to make your heart happy. Who or what makes your heart smile? What would it take to let peace, self-love, and acceptance make their home there in your heart? That they take root there, and that everything else grows from there, from that love, from that peace, from that acceptance, from that belonging. The way you walk in the world, the way you speak, the way you show up in meetings, the way you show up for yourself like you showed up here today. And then just take one big final breath together. And then go ahead and open your eyes if you had them closed, and come back. And so we do have about 15 minutes left. And I wanted to see if any of you had any questions, if you wanted to do another prompt, or if you wanted to hear another song. I'll leave the choice to you all. But I'll open it up for just questions or reflections, and then if there's time again, we can do another prompt, or we could do a song. All right, we'll do another song. So this is the first song I wrote, and it was when I had just like decided to get sober. And it wasn't, I wasn't an alcoholic, but I definitely was using alcohol to like numb pain or traumas, and just like, you know, I think that secondary trauma from just working with so many youth who'd been struggling, I didn't really know how to channel my pain that I was feeling. And so I wrote this song, and it was about calling myself back to myself, calling your spirit back. Just different communities I visited had said, you know, if you feel like you don't have yourself or your spirit, or you've traveled or traveled overseas, like say your name out loud 4 times, call yourself back. You can always call yourself back. So I wrote this song with all that in mind. So if you need to call yourself back, this song's for you, or if you know somebody who needs to. But this is called Come Back to Me. I'm trying to find my place in this world, but it's hard to heal, holding so much hurt. I feel the weight of each wound's cries, the tears that fall try to hide my light. When you hear the darkness and it's coming for your heart, call sacred medicines you've carried from the start. Come back to me, come back to me, come back to me. My eyes were blinded by unhealthiness. Anything to fill this emptiness. I've stumbled and I've fallen over misplaced dreams, wanting a taste of something just to feel anything. When you feel the pain of trauma eating you away, call on your ancestors to return your strength. Come back to me. Come back to me. Come back to me. Come back to me. You get to find the pieces you thought you ever lost. Reach deep inside to call back your heart. So that was Come Back to Me. Yeah, just remember, it's never too late or impossible to call yourself back to yourself, to call your heart back, to turn that bad day into a better one, and to find that peace with all of the changes that we're always constantly navigating. But thank you all for showing up today, for spending this time together, and hope you got something that can help you on your journeys. And just thank you all for allowing me to share as well.
All right. Thank you so much, Tanaya, for presenting and talking with us and singing for us. I am so happy I got to hear you listen. If we have any questions before everyone leaves, please feel free to ask them in the chat or unmute. I just have to make sure I can actually present a slide, but I will also be showing a quick closing slide before we end as well. Absolutely, I agree, Linda. A beautiful addition to my day, to all of our days. Absolutely. I realize that this is not fully flashed out, but as Allison mentioned, I won't try to publish it because that'll take too long. But their next session is Native Nutrition for Prevention and Healing. And if you go into the chat, there is also the evaluation survey that you can fill out and the registration link for that session. So just want to establish that reminder vocally as well as written in the chat. But with that, if anybody has any closing questions, closing remarks, I'm so thrilled I got to attend and join because I wasn't originally planning on it, and I'm appreciate the start to my, well, not start, mid start to my day, I guess, after lunch, like warm up.